through the way of the horse. This workshop is an opportunity to learn important suicide prevention concepts through horse grooming, an activity that is known to boost oxytocin levels in the brain, lowering blood pressure, and fostering social connection responses. A limited number of appointments are available. Call 406-304-6433 to schedule yours today.
Are you interested in putting solar panels on your roof? Do you want the latest on Montana's renewable energy policies? The Montana Renewable Energy Association is a leading voice for renewable energy education and advocacy in Montana. From community-based clean energy events to advocating at the Montana legislature, they work to ensure Montana's future is powered by the sun, wind, and earth. Find out more about MREA and join as a member by visiting montanarenewables.org or calling 406-214-9405.
School buses are taking to the roads, and they mean something very important. That is, bus drivers, educators, and parents doing their part to get children to and from school safely. Montana motorists share the responsibility to Montana's kids. Be aware this school year, you are sharing the road with our future. Flashing yellow lights alert drivers that the bus is preparing to stop. Flashing red lights means stop. Children are getting on or off the bus. Watch the lights and obey the signals to help keep our community safe for kids. This school safety reminder was brought to you by the Montana School Bus Contractors Association and this station.
ESPN Radio for Western Montana, KKVU HD3 Stevensville, and 102.9 FM on K275BS Missouri. ESPN Radio for Western Montana, KKVU HD3 Stevensville, and 102.9 FM on K275BS Missouri. Broadcast on 102.9 ESPN Radio for Western Montana and across the state on SWX Television.
I like football!
Now, the 2017 Radio Sports Broadcaster of the Year on the show with back-to-back Montana Broadcaster Association awards for sports coverage and award-winning sports journalism. Here is Ryan Tutel and Colter Nuanez.
Hello, Montana. The Grizz, home opener, tomorrow. The Cats, home opener, tomorrow. Week 1 of the NFL season on Sunday. And the Dagnab Green Bay Packers are already 1-0. Let's go. It's going to be a great day. It is a great day on a Friday afternoon. Tutel Nuanez, outstanding to be with you across the state of Montana on SWX Montana Television. Hi, how are you? And across Western Montana on ESPN Radio. Proud to be here. Thanks for spending some time with us, letting us escort you down the aisle into your weekend. We are broadcasting live from the Kurtz Polaris studios. Kurtz Polaris at 2904 West Broadway in Missoula, Highway 83 in Sealy. Online at KurtzPolaris.com. You can find us online as well, 1029ESPN.com. That is the website. You go there, you got all kinds of stuff to look through. The podcast, the pictures, some of the links, some of the news stuff, and, of course, listen live. You can listen live on the Listen Live tab. It's called a stream. It's brought to us by Opportunity Bank. Your local bank, your opportunity. And if you want to pick up your phone and call, be a part of this thing as we head into the first full weekend of football, where it's all going on. 329-1899 is the phone number. 329-1899, the phone number. All guests join us via the Raggich Brothers RV phone line. Colter, I'm very excited about the show today. Antonio Brown is going to play on Monday, it looks like, and so all of my joy at being right yesterday has faded into sorrow at being wrong today. That is all right. I can deal with that because the Green Bay Packers have a fantastic defense.
Or something.
Or something.
Or they were going against a childlike play caller and the most overrated quarterback in the NFL.
Well, I don't know about the first thing. I do think that there was a little bit of a wake-up call last night in the Windy City. I do think that. We will get to that. In fact, we're going to get to a bunch of NFL stuff today in the top of the hour, okay? So we're going to spend a little bit of time in the NFL trafficking in that. But today we will start with Montana and Montana State. We will hear from both head coaches once again, some sound that you have not heard yet from both Bobby Hauck and from Jeff Choate on their respective matchups with Northern Alabama and Southeast Missouri State forthcoming for these two teams. We also will hear from our dear friend Carolyn, the chick who doesn't know about sports, is going to tell us about sports again, as we do every Friday. A fun segment with her. We also will talk a little bit about the Osprey. The Osprey lost last night and thus have been eliminated officially. Look, it was going to be an uphill battle anyways. The fact that they were down like 6 games, I think, to 2 weeks ago and got this thing all the way back to a game and a half at one point. Ultimately couldn't close the deal, and Billings does clinch the Pioneer League North second half and thus the second playoff spot. So the Osprey season will be over tomorrow, but still 2 more games in the regular season. We'll have them for you here on ESPN Radio tonight and tomorrow as well. So we'll get into that a little bit, and also going to talk to you about the Seattle Seahawks. You know, the 102.9 ESPN Radio is the official Seattle Seahawks affiliate here in Missoula and in Western Montana. So if you want to listen to Seahawks football, you're a Seahawks fan, all year long, we will have Seahawks football for you, the full broadcast of those things. Sunday, it will start at noon. The broadcast real kickoff is at 2 o'clock. And then, we'll have the whole game, post-game, Steve Rabel doing it like he's done it for a long time. Great, legendary play-by-play voice of the Seattle Seahawks. Obviously an outstanding player for the Seattle Seahawks as well. And so we will have that for you come Sunday. So we want to break down the Seahawks-Cincinnati Bengals matchup a little bit heading into that thing. But, Colter, let's start with the University of Montana and their game against North Alabama. I feel like we have talked about both these teams a fair amount this week, but I don't feel that we have talked all that much about the two teams on the field together, the matchups. And look, it's a little bit vague. We don't know. We look up, we research and so forth about North Alabama. We don't know what they're going to look like on the field. We have an idea that they're probably going to be a little bit bigger, maybe a little more athletic than what you think, given that they were a Division II school 3 years ago. But nonetheless, some of the schemes that they're running, what they're going to look like, and what some of the problems that they're going to present to the University of Montana. We don't know what all of those will be, but we can project some of it. And what I want to know from you generally, Colter, is what do you think that Montana needs to do specifically against North Alabama to have a good game, to get a win, and maybe to get a convincing victory?
Well, it remains to be seen if Montana is going to be able to run the ball this year effectively. And I don't this is something that I am not usually going to say, but I don't think that being able to run the ball or not is of that much importance to Montana. I think it comes down to them figuring out if they can or not. And if they can't, I'm not saying scrap the whole thing, but I'm just saying you don't need to strive for balance if you just know that you're not going to be able to run the ball between the tackles when you have the players that they have on the perimeter.
It's such an interesting thing, too, because, people, when they talk about Bobby Ball and so forth and so on, and talk about, running the ball and playing defense and all that, and some of that is a little bit revisionist because, as you said, they're about 50-50 in terms of running and passing the first time around with Bobby Hauck.
How about this? During Bobby Hauck's first 7-year stint at Montana actually threw the ball 4 more times than they ran it.
There you go.
And under Bob Stitt, who ran the air raid offense, which everybody painted as a 50 throws a game offense, well, it was because it was a 90 plays per game offense.
Right.
The Grizz actually ran the ball 4 more times than they threw it.
How's that for symmetry and for mitigating against what you think or what you believe about?
I think the thing is that the revisionist history comes from the fact that Montana was balanced, even probably shifting towards the side of throwing the ball more often than running it in the first half of games under Bobby Hauck. Then when you get a lead, it's Squat City.
Yeah, it's
Chase Reynolds, Lex Hilliard, Justin Green, pound, 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 pound. Steal their will, as they used to say. And so I think that's where a little bit of it comes from. But regardless, I think that if Montana can't find real production in the run game, I don't actually think that that's that detrimental to the cause, considering the other playmakers they have at the skill positions. They just have to figure out how much of their play calls they want to dedicate towards design runs.
And I think this is an interesting point that needs acceptance. And as far as I can tell within the coaching staff, Coach Rosenbaugh, Coach Hauck, everybody else on the offensive side of the ball, it has been by and large. But my only point in bringing up that they actually threw the ball, like you said, 4 times more, almost exactly even,
right, is
I still would argue that Coach Hauck philosophically, fundamentally, he wants to run the football. He wants to be able to do. And look, every coach would tell you they want to be. But there's Jeff Choate. We are going to have a run game. We're going to focus in on what it takes to run the football, and that's what we're going to do. If you if you have that mentality, and I don't know that Bobby Hauck has it quite the same way that Jeff Choate does, but I do think that he's a big fan of big, strong, mean offensive linemen imposing their will, physically dominating an opponent, and you do that on the ground. You don't do that through the air very often. And so running over people, that's what he wants to be able to do. Pick up the yard when you need it. Maybe pick up 4 yards every single play and just run the ball a bunch of times if that's what's working. The point is, though, if that's what you want to be able to do and you can't, there are a lot of coaches who, it seems to me, just can't accept that and then just play to your strengths. If they can't you saw it in a microcosmic way last Saturday. Couldn't run the ball, couldn't really move the ball except for the first play of the game, which, by the way, was a down-the-field pass. Couldn't really move the ball in the first quarter at all. And part of it was learning what the defense was doing, certainly, because it was a clean slate in terms of what Travis Johansson was going to be trying to do with that Yotes defense against Montana. But they certainly figured that out. But they also weren't afraid to just go, yeah, we're going to throw the ball 52 times. Or at least we're going to throw the ball 30 times, and we're going to RPO enough where we're going to get, potentially to 50-plus throws. And you know what they did? Shredded South Dakota. Right. And it seems like there's some coaches who are just so beholden to do what they do, that they want this DNA to be there, that they're unable or unwilling to convince themselves that just do the thing that you're best at, even if it's exactly the opposite, quote-unquote opposite, of what you actually would like to do. And right now, I think this is a great opportunity. The thing, I'm going to ask you what you're looking for in this game. What I'm looking for in this football game out of Montana is, what are they able to do on the ground? I want to see the run game, good, bad, or indifferent, what it looks like. Who's getting the carries? Is it Marcus Knight? Is it Adam Eastwood? Is it somebody else? How is that going to go? That's something that I'm going to be very, very focused on. But at the end of the day, if you're winning because you're throwing for 350 yards and 4 touchdowns in 2.5 quarters, just do that. Don't overthink it, right?
I think that's the brilliance of RPO offenses in general and RPO quick-hitting offenses that have West Coast elements in them, like Tim Rosenbaugh's offense, is that so often it really is the cliche of what does the defense give you. Mm-hmm. Say North Alabama stacks the box again. Well, Montana's just going to run a bunch of RPOs, and they're going to get the ball on the perimeter, and they're going to make North Alabama guard them. If they don't, bring it on. Samari Torrey, Sammy Akem, I take those guys pretty much any one-on-one matchup you're going to find, and say that the opposite. Say they looked at the tape last week and they said, man, these guys threw 52 times. They threw for 430 yards. Now you might have a soft box. So now you might rush for 200 yards. It's going to be a give and take. But I think that if there's
that's the question. If they do get a soft box, can they rush for 200?
Can they run? Right, totally. That's the thing, too, though, is the funny part about last year, and this is why stats are sometimes deceiving, and it's also why quarterback run game is so influential in the running statistics in college football. But the Grizz actually rushed for about 170 yards a game last year, with having no real game breaker at running back and with having one of, if not the worst offensive lines in the league. Now, again, a part of that was Dalton Snead. A part of that was they also were able to pad their stats a little bit in some of their non-conference games. But still, there was not a game where the Grizz were like 80 yards, 29 carries for 80 yards or whatever. They're in the hundreds at least every game. So they figured out a way to do it.
Well, and they also, they incorporated Jerry Louis McGee,
right,
Gabe Sulser into the rush game on fly sweep stuff and try and get some big hitters, which of course does help your cause. And why wouldn't you? You should be doing that stuff.
Totally. And we're going to get into Southeast Missouri State in the next segment, but Daniel Santacanaria, he, like Jeff Choate described him, he's got a point guard mentality. I think that's a great way of describing these RPO quarterbacks now, is it really is like playing point guard, because you're kind of reading the high ball screen is the right analogy. You're reading the guy who has the interior run while also reading the short slant. And if you're really apt at it, which Dalton Snead proved to be, at least for a game last week, that he really is, you're the one making the decision. It's just like Chris Paul coming off that thing. Is he going to take it to the rack? Is he going to pull up and shoot the 15-foot jump shot? Is he going to make the bounce pass to the roller? Is he going to throw the backside lob? You have so many options. That's what college football has become, especially with the prevalence of this RPO stuff. So really, I don't think it necessarily comes down to singularly in this game, the Grizz being able to run down North Alabama's throat. Now, don't get me wrong. The Grizz are going to have to establish some semblance of a run game as the season goes on, because as the season progresses, trends start to emerge, tendencies start to emerge, and teams will be able to take things away even if you have superior athletic talent. That's the game of football in a nutshell, especially when you start playing teams that know you well, like the Big Sky Conference teams will. But in this game early, I think they just have to be able to figure it out and feel it out, and if it's not there, just take what they give them and continue to dice. And then on the other side, I'm just interested to see the way that they handle a mobile quarterback, because for years and years and years and years, the biggest advantage that the Grizzlies had against their opponents was their ability to rush the passer. We talked to Bobby Houck about it, just about the way that the trends of that element of the game. And he asked me, sometimes Coach Houck will come back at you with a question after you ask him a question.
Yes, he will.
And he asked me, he said, I was asking about just the way it's evolved over the last 20 years. And he said, you tell me this, Coulter. He said, what do you think is the most important position on the offensive line? I said, well, most people would say left tackle. He said, wrong. There isn't one anymore. Because guys get the ball off so fast, guys can run, you're rolling out to both sides, all sorts of different factors, right? And I think that's something that the Grizz have to figure out, though. They have to figure out how to fabricate some sort of pass rush. Gauging success in the pass rush, we need a new mode. We need new baselines. Because it used to be like a sack a game for an elite pass rusher if you're playing a 12 or 15 game season, and those Grizz teams were, because they were going on playoff runs. The guys are having 12 or 15 sacks in a season. We used to consider that elite. If you get to 10 now, that's elite. As a team, those Grizz teams used to have 50. That's not happening. There's just not, against spread teams, you're not going to get 50 sacks. It comes down to quarterback hits now, because so often the quarterback's going to get rid of the ball. I mean, Jeff Choate said that after the Texas Tech game. He said the number one thing I'm impressed with Casey Bauman was he didn't get sacked, but if you watch the film, it was the hits he took after he threw it. That's where Vernon Adams from Eastern Washington was just brilliant, because he would stand in there. He'd stand in there to the last possible second and then throw that deep ball. He would get annihilated, but most people don't see that. They see the ball whistling down the field and the 60-yard touchdown. How much can the Grizz, though, get in the face of the quarterback? And it's going to be a even more pressing challenge because Christian Lopez is so dynamic. He is such a good athlete.
It's Tutel Nuanez, 102.9 ESPN Radio, SWX Montana Television. Now, we were supposed to do this off the top, but I'm going to do it now because I want to. We pause to get ourselves ready for a weekend with some caffeine.
Ooh.
The Florence Coffee Company, Coffee Break, brought to us, by the Florence Coffee Company. I have my iced latte. Coulter, you got a what? Iced Americano?
I did, yep.
Yours is black. Do you usually get it black? I couldn't remember because I actually
usually get like a splash of cream.
I messed you up. I messed you up. The good thing is the iced coffee, very smooth at Florence Coffee Company. So you get that. Boys and girls, it's the Friday before the first full weekend of football. It's the home games for both the Grizz and the Cats, and guess what? They're night games. You know what that means? You don't got to get up at 4 a.m. I mean, you can if you want to. But you can sleep in a little bit. You can still get a full tailgate on. So have yourself a little coffee and enjoy your Friday night a little bit. Stay up later, read a book, sit down, hang out after the kids have gone to bed. Maybe put on a Netflix thing. I don't know what you want to do with your time, but you're going to have more of it if you go to Florence Coffee Company right now. Go there right now. You're worried about not being able to sleep. You don't want to drink caffeine in the afternoon. Stupid. That's dumb on Friday. You want to stay up. You want to enjoy it by your bad self later on this evening and just be yourself. Just be alone. Just be alone, be quiet. Have yourself a Florence Coffee. That's what I'm talking about right now.
Love it, Florence Coffee. Thanks for providing the caffeine. This is funny. I sent you a video of my favorite guy, Mike Kramer, earlier this week.
Yes.
And this is from Mike Kramer's last.
That out. Yeah.
This is Mike Kramer's last year at Idaho State, but it was when Idaho State was coming to prepare to play Montana. And he gave a typical Mike Kramer-esque quote. It's funny because it's one that has lasted because it was on video. And funny to think that more than 5 years ago, we all didn't have video cameras in our pocket. I mean, you could take video, but it wasn't the high quality. Regardless, it wasn't, in my estimation, as a guy that's interviewed Mike Kramer 100 times, it wasn't necessarily his best quote, but it was really funny just talking about Washington Grizzly Stadium, how it's an SEC environment, the only SEC environment in the West. I'm sure plenty of people listening to this show have seen it throughout the week. But the one thing he mentioned was that he said, we played this game at 5 o'clock. So everybody in Missoula is going to be plenty prepped. And I will say this is my challenge to people in Missoula. don't prep too hard, folks, because I would say that the games that have been the most raucous, because for years and years there was no lights at Washington Grizz.
Yes.
So 1 o'clock kickoffs were standard. And so then I think people just have their routines on a home game Saturday.
Mm-hmm.
You get up at 9, or you get down to the tailgates at 9 or 9:30, start eating some food, you're getting lubed up, it's all good. And you can have a pretty good time before 1 o'clock, and then, by the end of the game, you're all good.
Yeah.
I'll say this. The difference between a 5 o'clock game and a 7 o'clock game is always such an advantage for the 5 o'clock because people just go a little bit too hard.
I've seen some big hours.
That's what I'm saying. I've seen some a little bit of deflated crowds. It seems ironic, but I've seen it at both Montana schools. When it's a 7 o'clock kick, you're not quite sharp enough because you've been too excited for too long. It's just like when you're a kid on Christmas and all of a sudden you don't have any energy left by the time you open up all your presents.
I know a guy, okay, and he's not in this community. He's not even in this state. But he got tickets to a Super Bowl and flew, got the hotel, did the whole thing. That's an expensive weekend. Be there. Super Bowl is a primetime game, 7, 8 o'clock on the East, in the Eastern time zones, 5, 6 o'clock, whatever it is, 4, 5 o'clock here. Had himself an enjoyable tailgate day throughout. So much so, out cold in his hotel room bed.
For the Super Bowl.
Did not get to the game.
Don't be that guy, folks.
Don't do that. Don't do that to yourself anyways. But
start tailgating at noon and drink water till 3. And then you'll be feeling so good you won't even believe how much energy you get.
And you know how you do that? With Florence Coffee Company right now.
Let's go.
There you go. Okay, we're trying to help you. Help us help you. Coulter, it is North Alabama tomorrow. You mentioned Christian Lopez. 17 of 32 for 290 yards and a touchdown against Western Illinois. He also rushed for a second score. The thing that jumps out to me about this, though, he rushed for 6 yards, did not run the ball hardly at all. But he threw for 290 yards on only 17 completions. I mean, that's like 16, 17 yards per completion. 17 completions is not a significant number. But when you talk about the big ones, Cortez Hall had 2 receptions for 113 yards. 75 and 38 is what he went for. So when they were hitting some big ones. North Alabama was against Western Illinois. They also, Terrence Humphrey, outstanding on the ground. 12 rushes for 102 yards. He did have a big one in there, 62-yard touchdown run. But still, you're talking about 11 for 40, 45. I mean, you're still sitting there at about 4 yards per carry, even without the big one, and you can't take that thing out of there. But ultimately, he went for like 9 yards a touch. I mean, that's impressive, and certainly something that Montana will need to keep their eye on. Coulter, you went down to practice. You talked with Bobby Hauck earlier this week. This was on Wednesday, so it was right in the middle of coming out of last week and heading into this game against North Alabama. So we'll bring you this conversation with Bobby Hauck. The Grizz interview is presented to us by our friends at Alpine Touch, Montana's special spice. Here you go. Head coach of the University of Montana Grizzlies, Bobby Hauck.
You got the marching band back here, ROTC. Kids are back on campus. So when it's actually opening week of college football on a college campus in a college town like this, does it feel different to you?
Well, obviously, we're excited to get back out in our stadium with our students there, our fans there, our marching band. It's just, it's a great game day, and I can't wait for Saturday.
You talked a lot about beating South Dakota, a team that had won so many consecutive home openers, and just the accomplishment that was. You guys have a long streak, too. I think 15 in a row. So how much pride do you guys take in just protecting your home field, especially in the opening game?
Well, I think any game, but obviously it's the opener this year, and we've got a good streak going, so we'd like to keep that intact.
You mentioned wanting to improve on a whole bunch of different things. I know that's always been your MO, but what specifically did you see on the tape that maybe you guys want to work on this week?
Well, gosh, the list is long. We need to play more soundly on both sides of the ball. We need to finish plays better. We need to finish drives better. Just some breakdowns. Got to play the ball better down the field on defense. There's just a whole litany of things, and we're working at it.
This day and age, with all the social media, the exposure, everything for all these guys, it seems like it's easy to get a big head over not much of an accomplishment, right? It seems like you guys do the exact opposite of that. Want to make them keep working, keep them hungry. Why do you think that aspect is important psychologically?
Well, I think human nature allows complacency to creep in anytime that you don't emphasize the opposite. And so we try to make sure that we understand where we are and where we need to be if we're going to accomplish the goals of this program.
When you first got here, I remember you said, we got to run to the football, we got to tackle well. It seemed like you guys, by and large, did that in the first game. Who first instilled that mindset in you? Where did you learn that just as an important part of football?
Well, I would go back to my father way back in Big Timber, Montana. So Bob Houck Sr., I guess, and then that's been reinforced by a lot of great football coaches.
It seems like an old school principle, but also seems like a simple principle that sometimes escapes people. How do you continue to emphasize something that is simple but sometimes does get left by the wayside?
Well, I think that, along with toughness, are things that you have to do every day. It's not an 11, 12 Saturday a year thing. It's an everyday thing, and if that's not the culture of your team, then you don't have it.
We talked a lot about Dalton on Monday at the press conference, just his great performance, but just the comfort he has in this offense. Now, how much trust do you guys have in him?
Well, it's pretty explicit that he's a guy that we can trust to do what needs to be done to win. He's highly competitive. He's smart. So, he does a lot of good things, and we trust him to do that, and so do his teammates.
Year 2 of Justin Calhoun playing corner, seems like he has really now begun to at least master the position. What have you thought of just his progress over the last year or so?
Well, I think he's a much better player today than he was 365 days ago. He's worked at it. He had one of the better games of anybody on our team last weekend.
And Robbie, he ran to the ball so well. How much do you think he's just mastering that position?
Well, it's sort of like Justin. Robbie's a freshman last year, and obviously had a pretty big year. But he plays really hard, and he knows where he's going. So that those two things kind of lend themselves to playmaking.
So there you go. Bobby Houck finishing up talking about his son Robbie Houck, and also Justin Calhoun, and that's significant praise to say. He's a guy who played maybe one of, if not the best of anybody on our team last week, in Justin Calhoun, and obviously he has the interception, but had a pass breakup and had a fantastic day in general. I also find it interesting because you don't need to listen for very long to know who's in control of the playlist on any given day at Grizz practice. I mean, to go from country to J. Cole to like Ozzy Osbourne. You know what I mean? You get a pretty wide swath of music at any given Grizz practice. And I don't know how they do it. I don't know who's in control of the play. It's like players some days, coaches different days. But like you could start to identify the group pretty quickly that was in charge of today's, iPad, iPod, whatever.
Montana State has a live DJ.
I mean, that's pretty good.
Like almost every single time they have a session in the stadium, they have a full live DJ. Josh Perkins, who played for the Cats in the 90s. He's the guy. It's pretty funny. I thought there was a couple interesting things in there, though. As we know, and as we continue to learn, Bobby Houck's not much one to talk specifics, especially when it comes to game plan, especially when it comes to weaknesses or improvements. And like I said, what you need to improve on, and he said, a litany of things, everything, all of it.
We need to be sound.
Need to be sound, fundamental. That's what we do. That's what we're going to do.
Yeah, he did talk about, ball down, throwing the ball down the field, covering down the field. Okay.
But I thought the two most interesting parts were when I asked him about the emphasis on running of the football and the emphasis on just being relentless. And he talked about how toughness is a 365-day-a-year thing. You can't just roll it out once a week for 12 weekends in the fall. You got to do it every year, every day. And if you don't do it every day and you still say your program's about toughness, you're wrong. That's basically what he said.
Yes.
I thought that was very interesting. I also asked him just about complacency or also just about, not letting guys get too big for their britches, not letting them think that their accomplishments are much of anything if they haven't accomplished much. And he said that complacency is our greatest enemy, and that's one thing that they've always emphasized. And I think that when you really read between the lines of the way that Montana deals with the media, especially Coach Houck, that's so much of what it's about. Is you'll never hear Bobby Houck say a guy is great, exceptional, outstanding. He's just good.
Yeah.
Because he's not into the hyperbole of it all. And you have to be exceptional for him to tell you you're exceptional. And if you are, he will say that. But it's not thrown around a lot like a lot of other coaches do, particularly with his own guys, though, too. He's getting better. I thought he had one of the better games on our team. Mm-hmm. You know, he's never going to say, that was the greatest game he's ever played at the University of Montana. And I think it's actually good when you're talking about the society we live in and the chances that you have to have the look at me culture. That's the thing I think is so detrimental to college football. I mean, how many times have we seen guys just have big games and then go on Twitter and praising themselves and everybody's praising them and then they go and they lay an egg the next week. A part of it's game plan, a part of it's because the other opponent's focusing on them, whatever. But at the end of the day, it's just not good for the incremental progression. I think that's where Coach Hauck is so good at representing what needs to be for Montana. I think that's the other thing is he has the perspective of what excellence actually is. Mm. So if you're just comparing it to what you've done before, if you weren't at the place, you don't know. And he does know. So therefore, he knows they're nowhere close to what they were in 2008. Nowhere close. In any aspect. So he knows that we got to keep working.
Yeah. It is Tutel Nuanez, 102.9 ESPN Radio. That interview with Bobby Hauck brought to us by our friends at Alpine Touch. And we want to take a moment, shout out to Shoto, Montana, to give away some Alpine Touch. We got ourselves the Grand Slam Spice Pack right here, okay? Prairie Fire, of course, the original, the pepper blend, and the hickory smoke in here. These are the big ones, people. These are the ones that are going to last you, and we'll give you a hat as well. Well, Alpine Touch will give you a hat. A nice Alpine Touch hat. Thank you very much. Snapback. That's what we're about here. 329-1899. Call right now, 329-1899. You're going to get yourself the Grand Slam pack of Alpine Touch spices and the hat to go with it. And if you would like to go online to alpinetouch.com, you can also put in the code ESPN. Is it ESPN 10 at checkout?
Yes, sir.
And you get 10% off your entire order just for doing that, okay? So we're trying to help you. Look, we are givers, Colter and I. This is what we're here to do. Discounts to the best spices, insight on how to properly get ready for a night game. This is what we're here to do. Just festivals of information from sea to shining sea. And in fact, further, because we're on the internet, so around the globe. That's what it is.
And this is something you want to win right now because this is the greatest.
That's the greatest.
For this time of year.
It's the greatest. 329-1899. You are going to use this tomorrow all day long at the tailgate party, so you're welcome. Okay?
And throughout the rest of the season, too, because those things will last you forever.
Quick break. On the other side, Jeff Choate, Montana State. They're hosting Southeast Missouri State. We talked about the defense yesterday. We talk about the offense today. Next. Alpine Touch has been part of the fabric of Montana for more than 60 years. Decades ago, Russell Street started selling his Touch of Magic in whitefish. Years later, Alpine Touch's all-purpose seasoning remains a favorite. It's tailgating season, and there's no better way to spice up your grill before a Grizz game than with Alpine Touch. Go to alpinetouch.com now and use the checkout code ESPN10 for a 10% discount on your order. Alpine Touch is here to keep your mouth watering all football season. Alpine Touch, Montana's special spice.
Hi there, it's Les Schwab Tires. You know, we've been helping keep folks safe on the road around here since 1952. That's why you can save up to $152 on a set of 4 select light truck and SUV tires during our fall tire sale. So swing by or book an appointment at leschwab.com. Les Schwab Tires, doing the right thing since 1952. Limited time offer while supplies last. Discount depends on tire size and type. Cannot be combined with other offers. Details at leschwab.com.
On Russell, across from the fairgrounds.
Here in Montana, we are lucky to have huckleberries growing high up in the mountains. Flowco brings them to you at each of our locations across western Montana with Huck Lemonade, Huck Smoothies, and yes, even a scoop of huckleberries on your morning oatmeal. Stop by for yours or go to FlorenceCoffeeCo.com.
The best flavor under the big sky, Florence Coffee Company.
The Polaris Factory Authorized Clearance is here. The world's best-selling off-road lineup is priced to move with financing as low as 3.99% and rebates up to $3,500. Live life wide open in a high-performance RZR. Tackle anything from mountains to mud holes on a legendary Sportsman ATV. Get more done with a hard-working Ranger or take on any task or trail in a versatile Polaris General. The best deals of the year are happening now. See Polaris.com or your Polaris dealer for rebates up to $3,500 and financing as low as 3.99%. APR for 36 months during the Polaris factory authorized clearance. Kurtz Polaris at 2904 West Broadway in Missoula and Highway 83 in Sealy. Kurtz Polaris is now showcasing all of the new 2020 Polaris off-road vehicles. To be the first to get a great deal on brand new state-of-the-art Polaris vehicles at Kurtz Polaris. Online at KurtzPolaris.com. Rebates valid in U.S. through 9/30/19 on new 2015 through 2019 vehicles. Financing offer valid on 2015s through 2020s. Subject to credit approval. Offers vary by model. See dealer for details. Always wear a helmet. Never drink and ride.
Fall is here, and our favorite part of fall is football. We will be running a Grizz bus to and from every Grizz home game. The bus leaves an hour before kickoff, and your receipt is the ticket on the bus. So come on down to the Stone, get some delicious brunch, a bottomless mimosa, before you head to the game. For more info on the Grizz bus, visit us online at thestoneofaccord.com. The Stone, restaurant, liquor store, and casino. Just a stone's throw away on North Reserve.
ESPN Missoula Sports Center.
Ryan Tito, Colton Nuanez, ESPN Sports Center. It's a loser, Colton. I'm sorry.
The Cups.
There will be no postseason for the Missoula Osprey. I'm too happy to read that line, but it's my move. The O's, they come up just short in the race for second half of the Pioneer League North title. This is pitching up short in the first half. Missoula fell 5-2 to the Billings Mustangs last night, gaining the host their second straight second half North Division title. Also marks the fifth trip to the postseason in the last 6 years for the Mustangs. Missoula and Billings play 2 more games, one tonight, one tomorrow night to finish the regular season. Billings will play Idaho Falls in the first playoff series beginning on Sunday.
The Park City High football program will forfeit the remainder of the 2019 football season due to a lack of enrollment in the football program. Livingston was down to 15 players as of last Friday's 55-0 loss to Lewistown. The Rangers were scheduled to play tonight against Sydney, in a Class A matchup.
Disappointing, man. Disappointing. Friday Night Lights commences for the first time in September tonight, highlighted by a rematch of last season's Class B state title game. Loyola hits the road to play Fairfield in hopes of avenging their loss last November 30-13. First quarter of the Hellgate game, they are up 8-0 at last look. As Raleigh Worcester has scored
this
a touchdown.
ESPN Missoula Sports Center is brought to you by Aspen Sound.
Yeah, end of the first quarter. The Hellgate Knights are up 8-0 on Billings Skyview. This is the first game of the season for Hellgate.
Right,
They did
because
not
with
play
Belgrade
last week.
joining AA, a bye for the opening week.
Yeah.
Because there's an uneven number of teams just this year.
And the Skyview is one of the teams that Hellgate beat last year, if I'm not mistaken. That was one of their 2 victories that Hellgate had. So Hellgate looking to go back-to-back there. The early game right now at Missoula County Stadium. And we will try and get some more scores. I don't know if there's how many other early games. There might be one other early game going on while we're still on the air, but we'll certainly track this one for you. Frank Gogol of the Missoulian down there doing the tweeting on this, so we appreciate that. Coulter, we talked about the University of Montana Grizzlies. It's time to talk about the Bobcats. It is Tutel Nuanez. We are broadcasting live from the Kurtz Polaris studios. Kurtz Polaris at 2904 West Broadway in Missoula, Highway 83 in Sealy, and online at KurtzPolaris.com. They will also be, at the tailgate party. Coulter and I back for another year. ESPN College Game Day. We're going to be down there right across the street from the walking bridge, or adjacent to the walking bridge, I guess I should say, at the walking bridge, as you are on the north side of the river heading into and back from the game tomorrow night. We will be there. We'll be on site. We're going to have Domino's Pizza out there for you. You need to get a bite to eat. Obviously, the Badland are going to have some drinks for you. The MSO Hub is going to be there, so you can get all the gear that you want. Also, the clear bags that are now a policy at Washington Grizzly, which we should talk about a little bit more, but you got to have see-through bags now, see-through cases to take in there. Well, the MSO Hub are going to have those at our tailgate party. So if you need to get those to carry in things, your whether it's clothes, maybe you got kids, you need to get diapers and that sort of thing in there. That's what I'm always thinking about anyway. They'll have the bags so that you'll be able to go into the stadium with whatever items that you're going to need for the game tomorrow night, especially with the night game. It is getting cooler, isn't it? At night, it's starting to cool off a little bit. So you might need a blanket or an extra jacket by about 9:30 tomorrow when its third, fourth quarter rolls along. So anyway, come by the tailgate, hang out with us, have a drink, have a slice of pizza, listen to the show, say what's up, get some swag. We're going to have a bunch of stuff to give away, throw away, and you can come by with free drinks from Pepsi, soft drinks like Gatorades, Pops, that kind of stuff. So come on by the tailgate tomorrow right next to the Eastgate Shopping Center and hang out with us for a little while. We'd love to see you there. But Colter, tomorrow night, the Gold Rush game, the home opener also for Montana State, and they have a big-time game on their hands against the 11th ranked Southeast Missouri State, who's
where do you get that 11 number? You keep saying that. They're 12. You saw a different poll. I think you saw the coaches poll.
I'll look it up.
They're number 12 in the stats.
Okay.
Regardless, they're a top 15 team, and at this time of year, the top 15 is a little bit inconsequential.
They are 12, like I've been saying.
You got it stuck in your head earlier.
Well, no, because they were 12, or they were 11. Anyway, 12 versus 13, by the way, which is great. Right there, up now you know where you're going to stand. It's either going to stay the same, or Montana State jumps one, they drop one. Right? Can't move any further than that.
I mean, it depends on what happens out in front of them.
I'm playing with that. But they are. We talked a lot. This Southeast Missouri State. What they do is they play defense. They got the reigning Buck Buchanan Award winner, and that's what they hang their hat on. That's what they're about. And Jeff Choate took pains to emphasize that. But they got to play some offense too. Colter, what are you looking for out of SEMO when it comes to the offensive side of the ball?
Well, Daniel Santa Cantarina is one of the best quarterbacks in the country. He was first team All-Ohio Valley a year ago, finalist for a semifinalist, one of the top 20 finishers in the Walter Payton Award. He's a dual-threat guy, former transfer from Northern Illinois, so he's got FBS talent. He's a big, strong kid who, like Jeff Choate says, has a point guard mentality, the way that he distributes the ball. And they have some really formidable weapons on the outside. Christian Wilkerson, he would be one of the better receivers in the Big Sky Conference, and he is perhaps the best receiver in the Ohio Valley Conference. He was nearly 1,000 yards a year ago. He caught 14 touchdowns. He's got well up over 2,000 yards in his career and 25-plus scores. So he's a real threat and a guy that can stretch the field. And the way that they run the run-pass option, they're going to take a lot of shots. And Santa Cantarina, he throws the ball down the field and gives his receivers a chance to go make plays. And so Montana State's going to have to be on the ball. Here's the thing about the Cats. We talk about elite players at multiple levels of your defense. The Cats have multiple elite players on their front. I think that Bryce Stirk is an elite player. I think Amandre Williams has a chance to be an elite player. I think Derek Marks moving from the outside to the inside. He has a chance to be sort of this is way outside the realm of expectation, but he's a poor man's Aaron Donald. I only mean that in the fact that he's going to be a really undersized guy playing on the inside, but it's not going to matter because he's really, really fast with his hands. His 255 is not going to really be that big of an issue because he's so technically sound playing that 3-tech spot. I think those three guys have a chance to be elite. Troy Anderson has a chance to be elite at Sam linebacker. Braden Conkle and Jackway Allen are elite at safety. We thought Montana State was going to be elite at corner too, though. Munchie Filer being out is a huge blow because
do we have any idea on a timetable?
No, and this is all speculation, but I saw him at the last fall scrimmage wearing a cast on his arm and a sling. So when you have the cast and the sling, to me that means that you had surgery because you have the sling on to keep, because it's a lower arm injury. It's his forearm that was casted. But you have the sling on to keep your arm up to stimulate blood flow because you likely had surgery. To me, that means it's actually a quicker timetable in terms of getting that cast off. Because likely if you had surgery, that means that the bone's going to heal quicker or a tendon or whatever it might be that you hurt rather than having to have a hard cast that's set. If he just had the hard cast, he'd probably be able to play, ironically. But he'd have to have it for a lot longer, whereas you can get the surgery, just like Troy Anderson. He had that hand surgery, and he was basically kind of out for 2 weeks. He played a little bit. He played some snaps, but he didn't play quarterback. But then he was back out there fast. So I'm not sure what the timetable is, but I think that he'll probably be questionable for, if not doubtful, for this week, and then maybe questionable next week. But I expect him to be back by conference play. But when you're talking about the way that they play their defense at corner, having your number one press guy out is a domino, because then all of a sudden Damian Washington, your other senior, he could play nickel and he could play on the field side, the wide side of the field, and he plays a lot of zone. But when he's expected to then move into that number one boundary spot and be the man guy that beats you up off the line, he doesn't have that skill set. And so now it just incrementally trickles downhill. Tyrell Thomas isn't quite healthy yet. Tyree Gibson made his first start last week. Lavelle Price got his first playing time last week. Both those last two guys are redshirt freshmen. So just not having Munchie Filer in the lineup, once he's back, it makes everybody else better because they can play a different corner spot, which is more suited to their skill set. So I don't know if Montana State's elite at corner. And if they're not, it's a big hit to their defense because the aggressive man style that they want to play on the outside is what then triggers the pass rush. It's what lets Braden Conkle run the alley. It's what lets Jackway Allen roam and pick off balls like he does at such a prevalent pace. So it'll be interesting to see how Montana State rebounds from that. But I just think that Montana State, this is going to be such an interesting litmus test for the Cats because the Cats have played one of the toughest schedules in the Big Sky each of the last 2 years. Year one under Jeff Choate was rebuilding. It went a lot worse than I think people thought initially out the gates because of all the volatility they had at quarterback. They went 0-6 in Big Sky Conference play. Before then, they salvaged 2 wins towards the end, including the upset win here in Missoula at Washington Grizzly Stadium. But then year two, they were knocking on the door. They went toe-to-toe with South Dakota State. They went toe-to-toe with Weber State. They missed a 2-point conversion that would have won the game at NAU, and they lost by 1 point. They salvaged the season by winning in Missoula, but if a couple different balls would have bounced a different way, they would have been a playoff team that year instead of a 5-6 team. But regardless, they were in it with good teams, but they didn't beat any good teams. And the same thing with last year. The fact of the matter is that Montana State now is 36 games into the Jeff Choate tenure. They've played about 10 ranked teams. They've only the only teams that they've beat that have winning records or that are good are the 3 Montana teams that they've beat. And a lot of people would debate how good those Grizz teams really were. They were pretty good, but not nearly the Grizz teams of yesteryear. And then they beat Incarnate Word in the playoffs. But a lot of people would say, well, that's a brand new program that just finally made it into the playoffs. Fledgling ideas down there, all that stuff. What I'm getting at is Montana State, Jeff Choate has his vision, and it's an incremental 4-part vision that then this is year 4 of that vision. He said, we're going to lose big, we're going to lose close, we're going to win close, we're going to win big. This is the year they need to win big. This is the first time they've played a team that's a peer team to where they're at. You got 2 top 15 teams. This isn't playing number 3 South Dakota State when they got Taryn Christian and Jake Weineke and Dallas Goddard and all these NFL guys. It's not that. Because you're playing a premier team there, but you're the underdog definitively in that matchup. It's not playing 2-time defending Big Sky Conference champion Weber State on the road. This is your home opener against a peer team. This is a gigantic litmus test for Montana State. Montana State has to compete in this game, and I would venture to say that it's not quite a must-win, but it's as big of a must-win as you could have this early on in the season if you want to fulfill the expectations that you've bestowed upon yourself and that people nationally have for you.
Let's hear from Jeff Choate. We've had some sound from Coach Choate all week long, primarily talking about the defense, but this is one where he talks about the offense. This is our Opportunity Bank Coach's Corner, Jeff Choate on the Southeast Missouri State offense.
On offense, number 10, Santa Catarina, he's the guy that kind of makes it go. Very tough kid. You can tell he's the leader, undisputed leader of that offensive side of the ball. Definitely has some swagger. Is a good runner. And is a willing runner. He's kind of like that point guard with the ball in his hand, with the clock winding down. He wants the ball in his hand. He's gonna make some plays with his feet when he needs to extend plays. He's got 2 excellent targets on the perimeter, in 85, and then the Wilkerson kid, number 6. Both of those guys can break the game open. He has a ton of confidence. He throws back shoulder balls, 50-50 balls. They go up and get it. And so I think that's awesome. But they are primarily a run team, and they kind of have a 3-headed monster right now at running back. They've got a number of guys that they brought in. Have some new guys on the offensive line, but they look good. They're all mature guys, junior college transfers. I think 4 of the 5 starters are junior college transfers, and they all, look the part. Those long, levered bodies and very physical players, very physical mindset.
So there you go. Jeff Choate kind of running through it by position group there with the offense, and you talk about the multiple back system and Santa Catarina as the trigger man, the 5th-year senior, the leader of that offense. For Southeast Missouri State. But more than anything, what I've taken out of Coach Choate's comments all week long is just the true respect, not just the respect that you would usually give an opponent, but the kind of going out of his way to talk about this coaching staff and the players and the toughness that they have coming in here. And I think that is real in terms of Jeff Choate's perspective about them coming into this game. But Coulter, I think your point that you made is a fantastic one. This is a huge litmus test, and frankly, something that Jeff Choate has yet to accomplish as the Montana State head coach, which is beating. First of all, Montana State has not been a top 15 team themselves up until this point. Certainly not in a preseason scenario, but also competing with and frankly being expected to win, a home game against another top 15 opponent that is very much a peer, very much a like opponent in a lot of respects, and you want to prove that they're not a like opponent, that they're a very good team, but that you are the better team, that you have taken that next step into legit top 10 in the country type of group. And Montana State will have the opportunity this weekend. I mean, if Montana State was to win this game by double digits, say 14, 17 points, they're going to be in the top 10 in the country come Tuesday next week.
Yep.
And we've already outlined that it's actually the non-conference where Montana State really needs to make its hay, because there aren't a whole lot of challengers, particularly early on, in the conference schedule for them. So if they can get a foothold as a top 10 team in the nation, chances are that W number just keeps rolling on to the next integer week in and week out. And all of a sudden on the outside, people who are not, the stats people, here are people who are covering this at a 10,000-foot view that aren't looking at, well, look at how the schedule sets up or whatever. And by the way, again, nor should they. No, it's not. If Montana State is 6-0 in their first 6 Big Sky Conference games, they should be a top 10 team in the nation, period. Doesn't matter who or where or what. If you're 6-0, that's it, that's all. And they may well not be. They might lose the game. Heck, they might lose 2 in that stretch, but they would be upsets, period. Those would be upset losses, which all teams suffer at one point or another. Often, just about every season, a team will suffer an upset loss. I mean, heck, Clemson, has lost a game each of the last, 4 years at some point. You know what that is? A major upset, and it don't even matter who they're playing. Just doesn't matter. It happens. So, but the point is that the fact that they would be upsets just, again, points to the schedule. So if they can get this win, prove to themselves, prove to everybody else, no, we deserve everything that we get, and now we're going to start rolling, that's big time for the Bobcats.
And they need it for the sense of belief, too, because Jeff Choate has prophesized so intricately and articulately his vision, and every step of the way has come true. But it's all been leading up to this, and the whole vision, step by step, is all for naught if you just go kick the bucket and don't make the playoffs this year. Now, we know all the systematic advantages that Montana State has. We all know the talent they have more talent than they've had in the last 4 years, certainly. But you got to do it now.
You do.
You have to prove it. And that starts, I saw a tweet. It's sold out. It's sold out Bobcat Stadium. Standing room only tickets. They're going to pack 20,000 people in a 17,700 person stadium. When you got standing room only, you got more than maximum capacity, and you got a team from Cape Girardeau, Missouri coming to Bozeman, Montana. You got to win.
Got to win it. It's 210 Nuanez, 102.9 ESPN Radio. We'll take a break. On the other side, we're going to have some fun. Carolyn, our dear friend Carolyn, she's the chick who doesn't know sports. She's going to tell us all about sports. That's the way it goes. Colter, people are traveling this time of year, going to football games. You're headed to Missoula tomorrow, coming in, have family coming in, people coming in for the football game, or just in general, maybe you're a business person coming through all the time. The Wingate by Wyndham, that's where you want to stay.
Wingate by Wyndham in Missoula, a hotel that truly offers something for everybody. They have an awesome water park, sweet water slide. If you have a family, whether it's a local family that needs a birthday party or you're coming in from out of town, you want to have your kids blow off some steam before the Grizz game, that would be great. They also have giant business spaces for any business travelers. Maybe you want to get a business meeting in before the next Grizz game. They got a great spot for that as well. They also offer travel rates, and they also have one of the best business rewards programs you'll find anywhere. They're just down the road from the Missoula Airport, a location that's quiet and convenient, parking ample and free for guests and the staff that generally cares about taking care of you. Let the Wingate by Wyndham in Missoula make you feel at home even when you're not.
Mark your calendar for the 4th annual Selway Armory tent sale. The lowest prices of the year on guns, ammunition, and accessories, and massive amounts of ammo to stock up for the entire year. September 13th and 14th in the Lolo Shopping Center parking lot on Highway 93. Tons of ammo, guns, and other items at below-cost blowout prices. September 13th and 14th, 10 a.m. to 7 p.m. on Friday and 8 a.m. to 6 p.m. Saturday. The 4th annual Selway Armory tent sale at the Lolo Shopping Center, Highway 93.
Garden City Paint and Glass in Missoula is like your paint doctor. They take the pain out of painting. Don't trust your home to anything less than professional PPG paints from Garden City Paint and Glass. Go to visualizecolors.com. Scan in your room photo to see what color combinations will look best before painting. That's visualizecolors.com. Featuring professional PPG paints. Garden City Paint and Glass in Missoula, across from the Southside McDonald's at 3217 Brooks.
Hey everybody, Ryan Tutel, and I'm here with Josh of the Advocates Injury Law Firm. Josh, there's a lot of lawyers in this area. What makes you different?
At the Advocates, we primarily focus on injury cases. That gives us the experience and the knowledge to correctly evaluate your case and work with insurance companies and other attorneys so you get exactly what you deserve to make you whole again. We take really good care of our clients, and we're going to fight for every single dollar you deserve.
Call 640-4444 or online at montanaadvocates.com. There are a lot of lawyers. You deserve an advocate.
Now, the Montana Club's happy hour features BOGO beverages. Our expertly mixed cocktails, microbrews, domestics, and wine are buy one, get one free 7 days a week from 3 to 5:30. Stop in on Friday for Montini night. Sip on a top shelf martini for only $6, 5:30 to close. When you've worked hard all day and are ready to relax, the Montana Club has got you covered with BOGO happy hour 7 days a week, 3 to 5:30 on Brooks and North Reserve, Missoula.
The big skies are open. Go wild with Opportunity Reward Checking. Go ahead, jump, dance, shout. Opportunity Reward Checking will make you do that. Go wild when you get your 1% cash back on qualified debit card purchases. It all starts with an Opportunity Reward Checking account from Opportunity Bank. Visit a branch today to get started. Then go wild and spend your 1% cash back however you want. Go wild with Reward Checking from Opportunity Bank. Some restrictions may apply. Member FDIC.
School buses are taking to the roads, and they mean something very important. That is, bus drivers, educators, and parents doing their part to get children to and from school safely. Montana motorists share the responsibility to Montana's kids. Be aware this school year, you are sharing the road with our future. Flashing yellow lights alert drivers that the bus is preparing to stop. Flashing red lights means stop. Children are getting on or off the bus. Watch the lights and obey the signals to help keep our community safe for kids. This school safety reminder was brought to you by the Montana School Bus Contractors Association and this station.
Tutel and Nuanez on 102.9 ESPN Radio for Missoula.
Now they always say congratulations. Work so hard, forgot how to vacation.
Tutel Nuanez, long-winded as usual. Great to be with you. Broadcasting live from the Kurtz Polaris Studios. Kurtz Polaris at 2904 West Broadway in Missoula. Highway 83 in Sealy. Online at kurtzpolaris.com. It is time to talk to our dear friend Carolyn. She's the chick who doesn't know about sports. It's brought to us by the Missoula Winery and Event Center. Book your holiday party now at the Missoula Winery and Event Center. Online at MissoulaWineryandEventCenter.com. 5646 West Harrier Drive, Suite B. Go check it out. Once again, the time has come for our favorite segment of the week, sports. Okay. Hi, Carolyn. How are you?
Sorry. Hello. I'm great. How are you? It's Friday.
I'm wonderful, too. I'm glad the first thing that you've done is apologize. I don't know why. Sorry was the word that was...
Well, I'm Canadian, so it's just what we do.
Right.
Surrey.
Yes.
Yes.
It's fine. It's forgiven. All is forgiven. We're
Thank
happy
you.
to have you here. Once again, a weekly recap on the sports world through the lens that is very blurry of sports, namely from you.
Correct.
Okay, so what do we got?
Well, the Bears and the Packers played last night.
They sure did.
What a game.
What a great game. Coulter, huh? You
minus
get
the Bears
7-3. It's like 1905. The Packers are out winning with defense. How's that happening?
I feel vindicated. Yesterday on the show, I said the Bears are going to take the biggest nosedive of any team in the NFL.
You did.
They are off to a resoundingly great start.
How dare you?
I mean, if you for 1 second can even look at Mitch Trubisky and say, I trust that guy, you just don't know.
There you go.
I don't even know who you're
Judgments
talking
based
about.
on your face. Of course.
I mean, your boy has the worst face in the league. And that's why they went 4-12 last year, because Aaron Rodgers being a crybaby.
Oh, he's such a crybaby. He looks like this.
You two are pathetic.
Okay.
Great. We're on the radio, and you're making the face at me. Okay, anyway, Bears-Packers last night.
Bears-Packers.
Yes, let's talk all
the
about it.
real news story from the Bears-Packer game is the mic caught a player saying on the sideline.
Yes, the hot mic, the ever-present boom microphone over the sideline, and a very revealing conversation was being had and not edited and made its way on air during, by the way, a moment where the broadcasters were not speaking because it was just like a punt that was happening.
It was beautifully. I mean, you couldn't have written it better.
Well, I don't know whether we're at liberty or not, but I am choosing not to re-air that here. You can go look it up for
Google
yourself
and have
if
a
you're
giggle.
interested, if you missed it.
I would like that player to come forward and
show
his face.
I don't think that. I bet everybody knows who it is.
Well,
I don't know who
I don't
it
know
is.
who it is.
No, you don't know who it is, but you don't know who Mitch Trubisky is either. So
Who?
that's yes. You're over here insulted of us making fun of the Bears, and you don't even know the team's quarterback. So enough with this faux
Jim McMahon?
fandom. Yeah.
Did you watch the Brett Favre commercial before the game?
I heard about it, but no, I didn't.
The two SNL guys sitting there
Yeah.
saying, Ditka, that's you
The
and
Bears.
every other Bears fan.
The Bears.
They create their own Siri that's named Mary Pat, and it has revisionist history for everything.
This is where the Vikings fan and the Packers fan come together in our mutual hatred of the of the non-knowing Bears fans.
I was thinking about this last night. The Bears are for sure my least favorite team in the NFL.
No way. I don't agree with that.
Who's your least favorite?
The Cowboys. And then the Dolphins.
See, here's the thing, though, is that what the Cowboys got now, including Jalen Smith, I like the Cowboys way better than the
Jaden
Bears.
Smith, Will Smith's son.
Jalen.
We did hijack her segment here and actually started talking sports, which we're not really supposed to do at this particular moment.
That's okay.
So in any case, so you want to find out the identity of the individual.
I want to know about the individual. I try to look up other hot mic moments because I figured there'd be tons.
There are.
And I couldn't really find anything really good.
It is interesting, actually, because, everybody wants to get offended over everything now, but also everybody wants more access, and you can't have them both. Like, you can get more access, and then you're going to hear all of the things like what we heard last night on the thing, or after the Stanley Cup championship, and all of the excited but, illicit F-bombs that are being dropped. They're putting Mike's Coulter in the cups at PGA events.
Ew. In their cups?
Stop. That's not even real right there what you're doing. That's yes. So you can hear the ball land in it and roll around. But
that is really up close and personal.
But you hear the guys talking though too.
Yeah.
Like if you miss a putt, Coulter, do you want that to go out over the air?
Oh no.
What do you think?
No, that's what I'm saying though. But that's where we're no different from Jordan Spieth that does like if they miss a putt, they actually got money riding on it. You and I, we just,
I thought golf was civilized.
Oh, yeah. Yeah.
Okay. Well.
Take a look at this week's ESPN The Body issue with Brooks Koepka and let me know if it's civilized.
I don't even know who you're talking about.
Okay. What else you got, Carolyn?
It's amazing.
It's amazing. No clue.
So there's a soccer player, Carly Lloyd.
Yes.
And
great soccer player.
She kicked with, I don't know who. She kicked a football and made a field goal. And
I think it was like, honestly, I think it was like a 55-yard field goal that she kicked.
It was.
Absolutely made it rain.
So people are talking about having her, join the NFL.
Mm-hmm.
And I'm just curious your opinion on this.
Well, she said like ahead of or after that, like that she was not interested even in like trying out, but maybe she would be like next year or something like that. There have been a couple female kickers specifically that have like been at whether it was an NFL camp or like a pro day or something like that. None of them have been successful enough to kind of grant a further look. But Carly Lloyd's like, she's one of the greatest kickers on earth. She's like that's what she does, straight kicker,
right.
So I don't know. I'm always for that to see what happens, whether she would be able to beat out, any, college kicker who's, being not drafted usually, but, being looked at professionally is an open question. Because even though she's got the leg, there's a lot of technique and all of that stuff to it. But have at it.
What I read today was that she took 4 steps before her kick
Yeah.
You're only supposed to take 2. And it's not like she had a bunch of dudes rushing her.
Right.
You know.
My worry would be in the event of a block, what's going to happen to Carly Lloyd?
Yeah.
It's bad news.
Yeah. So that's my only issue with it.
I kind of think that actually nothing would really happen to her if a kick got blocked, you know? Like she'd just hit the deck and like
duck.
Unless she went for the tackle.
Don't let him score the touchdown. I mean, that would be that. But I just don't think that's going to happen.
Well,
but I think it would be a long shot for her to make a team. But that is much better than saying no shot, which I would normally say in a scenario like this.
Like
but
if
Carly
I went
Lloyd,
out and did it?
like you,
okay.
Or yours truly, who also, like of all the things I couldn't do, kicking a football,
interesting.
Definitely no.
All right.
I have a bad foot and I'm not flexible.
Oh, yeah.
Those are 2
I've seen
bad
you walk.
combinations.
You're not going to be kicking a football.
No, I won't be.
Right.
Speaking of flexible kickers, how about the Packers' 6'6", 12-year-old punter who can kick himself in the face, and he's legitimately a 6th grader facially.
He actually was drafted, which does not happen very often. I think they got him in the 5th round.
I mean, it looks like he's out of middle school. No, he's out of Alabama, but
yeah,
the guy's 6'6", and he can kick himself in the face.
Yes.
His fall through his knee hits him in the face.
Wow.
You know who else can do that? My son.
Really?
Whammo.
Well, that's going to last for about 6 more months. Years. That depends on how many bananas and tacos he eats.
All of them.
Wow.
Okay. Carolyn?
I have one last little thing to say.
Let's hear it.
It's kind of serious.
Okay.
As we're getting into the sports season for local kids and high schoolers and whatnot.
Yes.
I feel like a lot of people are really serious about their high school sports. And I think being on a team is a really important thing.
The people should know you are a mother to 2 boys.
I am a mother to 2 boys.
Not in high school
Not
yet.
in high school. But just, I'm around a lot of parents with kids that are playing sports right now. And let them have fun. Let them be teenagers. Let them enjoy the game. I see these kids that have been like practicing nonstop since they were 8, the same sport, blowing out their shoulders, blowing out their knees. And I just, I want everyone to get back to the heart of the sport.
Open up a bottle of 2 Sisters and RELAX, right?
That's right.
How are they going to get a scholarship, Carolyn? How's my kid going to be the best of all time if he's not out there grinding away?
You mean a goat? I just learned that.
Yes. How's he going to be a goat?
Because being well-rounded is more important. I mean, I'm down for a scholarship, but you need to have like a mix of and a life.
I like being well-rounded, but only literally. You get it? You get it?
You do.
That's why your son's going to have a full ride, because he's going to be in sports like sumo wrestling.
That's right. It's easy. It's an easy sport to get a full ride in. Carolyn, as always, it was something. Thank you for being here.
Hey, anytime.
There you go. Carolyn, the chick who doesn't know about sports, helping us out as always on a Friday. Brought to us by the Missoula Winery and Event Center. Book your holiday party now at the Missoula Winery and Event Center, online at MissoulaWineryandEventCenter.com, 5646 Harrier Drive.
Over 3,000 square feet of event space out there. They got Tattoo Girl Wine, which has 3 different wines rated 89 or above by Wine Enthusiasts, which is the go-to ratings. It's a great spot for any sort of party, whether it's a graduation party, holiday party, or anything else. Go to MissoulaWineryandEventCenter.com. All the contact information is there. Give them a call. They have special rates for nonprofits and a variety of different parties that they can help you out with. So go to MissoulaWineryandEventCenter.com today for your holiday party needs.
NFL, full Sunday on Sunday. Everything you need to know next.
This is Mike Nugent with Berkshire Hathaway Home Services. Berkshire Hathaway provides Western Montana with full-time real estate professionals for you whenever you need us. Our reputation as the state's most knowledgeable and available real estate group has helped build unmatched trust in the Garden City and statewide. If you have been thinking of making a real estate move in the short or long term, give me a call. No pressure, no expectations. Just professional opinions and service at whatever pace you are comfortable with. Give me, Mike Nugent, a call today, 531-1802. And remember, every question is good to ask.
It's a rite of passage, that first bank account. Explore the great options for your young adult with a visit to Farmer State Bank, online at farmersebank.com or in person at any of our 9 locations in Western Montana. Our checking and savings accounts are designed to fit any lifestyle and budget, with the flexibility, innovations, and security today's consumers demand. Start out right with Farmer State Bank, your Montana bank since 1907. Member FDIC.
Hey folks, Ryan Tutel, and I'm here with Josh of the Advocates. Josh, do most injury accidents end up in court?
Luckily, most personal injury cases can be settled out of court through a fair negotiation with an insurance company. However, sometimes it is necessary. I'm prepared to do whatever it takes to get a fair settlement. Luckily, most personal injury cases can be settled out of court with a fair negotiation with the insurance company. However, I'm prepared to do whatever it takes to get the right settlement for you.
It's Josh at the Advocates, 640-4444, or online at montanaadvocates.com.
The biggest reason fall is the Desperados' favorite season of all, the return of those wonderfully spirited UM students, of course. Okay. So football is the real reason the Desperado gets pumped about fall, but you can't have college ball without college, right? So this season, the Desperado is bringing the best of both worlds together with live broadcast of Montana college football and all your favorite college football teams, along with Missoula's best hot wings and coldest beer. Fall has arrived, and there's more than one reason to celebrate at the Desperado Sports Tavern on South Russell, across from the Y.
Kids are starting a new school year, and they have a lot to learn. But before they get to school, teach your children how to get to and from school safely on the school bus. Remind them to watch out for cars on the road as they leave the bus. Montana motorists share the responsibility to Montana's kids. Be aware this school year, you are sharing the road with our future. Watch the lights and obey the signals to help keep our community safe for kids. This school safety reminder was brought to you by the Montana School Bus Contractors Association and this station.
Have you been hurt or disabled? Are you missing time from work and not sure what to do? I'm attorney Chris Helmer, and Clark Fork Law Offices in Missoula is here to help. Our team specializes in worker compensation, personal injury, and Social Security disability. We fight for the benefits you deserve. Call Clark Fork Law at 728-0168 for a free consultation or visit clarkforklaw.com. Again, 728-0168.
ESPN Radio for Western Montana, KKVU HD3 Stevensville, and 102.9 FM on K275BS Missoula.
Welcome back. Tutel Nuanez, 102.9 ESPN Radio, broadcasting live from the Kurtz Polaris studios. Kurtz Polaris at 2904 West Broadway in Missoula, Highway 83 in Sealy, online at kurtzpolaris.com. If you missed anything in the first hour, listen on the podcast. The podcast is available on the TuneIn Radio app and on iTunes and on Spotify and everywhere that you get your podcasts. Go check out the Tutel Nuanez podcast. It's brought to us by the Wingate by Wyndham Hotel. Give us a call, too. Area code 406-329-1899. All guests join us via the Rangich Brothers RV phone line. Update. Skyview is driving. They're on the Hellgate High School 22-yard line, and Hellgate forced a fumble, which they recovered. In the next play, Raleigh Worcester hits Ian Finch on a 76-yard touchdown. 2-point conversion, again good. 16-0. The Hellgate Knights up in Game 1, Week 1.
No kicker for
Week
Hellgate
2.
or what?
I mean,
they should just go recruit somebody off the soccer team that won 10-0 yesterday.
Well, excuse me, even if you had the greatest kicker ever, an NFL kicker, would not a 2-point be better than a 1-point on the back end of this?
That's true. And when you got a grown man playing quarterback, might as well just go for 2.
I think the most egregious thing in all of football is not going for 2 every single time.
Every time.
Let me ask you this. Particularly in the NFL, what is the make percentage on a field goal?
75%.
Oh, it's more than that, isn't it? I'll bet it's 90%. Okay? 90%. That means that 45% of the time, if you go for 2 and you get it, you break even. Now, you're going to tell me that you can't figure out how to stick that thing in the end zone at 50% of the time or better, and over the long haul, come up with more points. Phil Simms always made
Last
me
season
insane.
It was 60%.
Made me insane. Is that right? Our producers feed me information I'm not used to. 60% extra point makes? That's horrendous.
I think you said field goals.
Conversions.
Oh, 60% on 2-point
on 2-point conversions. Okay. That makes sense to me. So 60% 2-point conversions. What are we doing? Like, there should be an entire off-season week that coaches just spend scheming up plays from the 2.5-yard line. That's it. That's all you should do.
There probably is.
And Phil Simms sitting there go, oh, you can't chase points. Are you kidding me? It's the point of the game is to chase points. That is what you are here to do.
93.6% on kicks.
Okay. I'm okay. I will survive it. But it is the NFL Sunday. So let's talk a little NFL football. Let's give the people some numbers that they can use, Coulter, and let's play a little bit here. First of all, game 1 of the NFL seasons is in the books. 10-3, the final of that football game last night. A dominant win in which the Green Bay Packers outscored their opponent by fully 300%. That makes me so happy. So listen, here's the thing. I understand for those who are not Green Bay Packers fans specifically, exceptionally awful for Bears fans. And there's a lot of Bears fans in this community, regrettably. You know who you are. Yes, I'm speaking directly to you. But if you're a fan of any one of the 30 other teams in the NFL and you don't really care about the Packers or the Bears, that game last night was just horrendous. There was both the Bears have a legitimately great defense. Great defense.
Yep.
And the Packers looked like they had the greatest defense of all time, which we know is not the case. It also, though, was not enough to just have great defenses because there was incompetent offense being played in both directions in that football game all over the place. I mean, Green Bay went for, I think, negative 14 yards in the first quarter. And that's like 3 or 4 possessions. It's not like the Bears held the ball for 13 minutes. And it's a weird stat. They got multiple looks and went backwards over and over and over. So not a good look for Matt LaFleur in his first shot as an offensive head coach and play caller. Mike Pettin, on the other hand, looked like a wizard. And he is my vote to just run everything. Great. Phenomenal. That said, couple things out of this game. If you were me and any other Packer fan, it was one of the great games you've ever watched. One of the greatest games you've ever watched. And I'll tell you why. You think I'm kidding? I'm not kidding. I tweeted this out, somewhat in jest, but not really. When was the last time, Coulter, that the Green Bay Packers won a football game explicitly and only because of their defense? Perhaps never is the answer. I mean, their defense has lost them so many football games, it is unthinkable. And it has always been one of their 2 Hall of Fame quarterbacks over the last 25 years that has been there to bail them out if there was going to be any bailing out at all. And last night, the Green Bay Packers, except for 2 minutes at the beginning of the second quarter, could do squadoosh. And their defense went absolutely lights out. And I will say this. If the Packers' defense is legit, the Green Bay Packers are legit. The Green Bay Packers could be dominant if their defense is actually good. Dominant. No. Why are you laughing? Dominant.
I'm laughing because I do think the Packers are better on defense. Number 91, I believe his name is Preston Smith, that has a problem coming off the edge.
Mm-hmm.
I think they drafted him a couple years ago. He's an SEC guy, right?
Za'Davian Smith, who they got from Baltimore, and Smash Amos on the back end of that thing. There's some players.
I love Adrian Amos, for sure. I'm still not completely sold on the Packers' corners. I think that they have okay, but not as good as they want them to be.
Well, what they are is young.
They're young, and I don't know what their upside is. Like, is Kevin King's actual upside as an all-pro corner? I don't think so. I think it could be okay. I think his upside is as an okay corner. But regardless, the Packers are better on D. They are.
They look
like they had more continuity across the board just from a coaching staff perspective.
But again, better means what, right? Because they were awful.
Right. And, the Packers have, the last handful of years, have had one of the best offensive lines in football, which is one of the underrated factors of Aaron Rodgers being one of the best quarterbacks in football. When you have one of the best offensive lines in football, then that gives you a chance, even if you don't have a brand-name running back. I think the 2 kids that they got as their 1-2 are good. Aaron Jones is fast. Jamal Williams, good vision. I mean, those guys are They're fine. But what I saw last night was just a horrifically ugly game on both sides. And it makes you wonder, when you have a guy who you know is your franchise QB, and you can, I mean, I don't think Mitch Trubisky's as good. I think Mitch Trubisky's got better arm talent than I thought he did. I think Mitch Trubisky's also going to fall back to earth this year. I think he's going to have a mediocre year at best. Because I just don't know if he has the it factor, and I think that everybody's going to be coming for him. That said, he's certainly a franchise quarterback in terms of what they think of him. They're treating him as their franchise guy.
They traded up to get him,
right? And there's probably, I'd say there's 15 or 16 teams in the NFL that have definitive franchise quarterbacks, regardless if those guys are actually in the top 15 or 16 quarterbacks in the league.
So they went out and they're building this thing around this guy.
They're going to be in on this guy until they're not, but it's going to take a little while.
Yeah.
And I think when you have one of those guys, you're going to look bad in the first couple weeks of the year offensively. Because, ironically, if you have one of those guys, that means he's not playing in the preseason. It means he's not getting reps. It means you're protecting him. He's playing 7-on-7 for 9 months before he actually gets live reps. You're going to look bad. Even Aaron Rodgers looked bad.
Aaron Rodgers had some misses that were 100% and totally Aaron Rodgers, and not on hard throws. I mean, just flat bouncing the ball in there, throwing it wide at guys. Some bad throws that you really don't see Aaron Rodgers make. Well, why? It's his first game in 8 months.
Exactly. And so you can talk about, we threw for hours on end every single day in the summer. We have all this great chemistry. It doesn't matter because there's no comparison to when Khalil Mack is coming off the edge at you. There's none. There's no repping that. There's no experience like it except for to do it. So I think that we're going to actually see this trend across the NFL. I expect most of the games this week to not look great. And I actually expect teams that maybe had a quarterback battle or had a young quarterback that had to play to actually look better out the gates. Like Kyler Murray, he played against the Raiders in a preseason game. It was on Hard Knocks, and Kyler Murray went up to John Gruden afterwards and was like, "Man, you guys were bringing the house at me. Like, what's up with that? It's the preseason. What are you doing?" And John Gruden's like, "You better get used to it, son, because like everybody's gonna be bringing the house at you in about 3 weeks." But I think that helps.
Sure,
I think Kyler Murray will probably look sharper than those guys. Maybe we'll see. I mean,
they got a bye week 1. They'll be fine against Detroit.
But you know what I'm saying?
Yeah.
It's ironic that maybe the quarterbacks that aren't franchise guys might look better because they've actually had to play football the last couple weeks. So I think that's one part. I also think that here's the thing we know to be true in the NFL. When there's a new concept, when there's something fresh, it takes the league as a whole a little while to solve the puzzle, oftentimes. When Robert Griffin III, when the Redskins started running the zone read, and then the Panthers kind of ripped it off a little bit, the Seahawks ripped it off a little bit, it took the league collectively 10 or 12 weeks to sort of adjust to that. Then once they did, they started killing these guys, and Robert Griffin's about out the league because he's been so hurt. Russell Wilson doesn't run the ball hardly at all anymore except for as a decoy because the Seahawks realized we can't do that if we're going to pay him the money. And Cam Newton, even though he's superhuman, still is hurt almost every year because of the way that they run him.
That's right.
So, but regardless, I think that we saw the influx of creative offensive ideas through very many different offensive minds, from Kyle Shanahan with the Falcons, riding that all the way to the Super Bowl, to Matt Nagy and the Bears last year. Sean McVay is another great example. But guess what? Guess what the old school defensive coordinators do during the offseason?
Figure it out.
They sit there and watch Matt Nagy's film. What's your boy's name? Who's the defensive coordinator for the Packers?
Mike Patton.
Mike Patton. I bet you Mike Patton watched 150 hours of Bears film this offseason. For real. Being like, how are we going to kill these guys?
Doubt.
What are we going to do to fluster these guys? So that's where greatness comes from, right? Everybody has tendencies. Everybody has trends. Everybody maybe has a great idea that they can ride, and they can ride the lightning for even a full season. And a lot of times when you ride that lightning, in the NFL, the margin of victory and the difference between making the playoffs and not is so slim. So if you have this element of surprise where people can't figure out your offense, think about the Chiefs' Alex Smiths last year before they had Patrick Mahomes. And they were running all these crazy concepts. They're throwing to the tight end up the skinny seam. They're throwing all these crazy backside wheel routes to Tyreek Hill. And they go 6-0 out the gates. And then they were 6-6 the rest of the year. But guess what? You banked 6 wins. So you're in the playoffs if you just go 500 down the stretch. So often that happens. And so even if teams are starting to figure it out towards the end of a season, we don't really acknowledge it until the next year. But that's why I said the other day that I think the Bears have a chance to come crashing back down to earth, because I do think that when teams start to figure you out, that's where greatness comes from. Tom Brady's been able to defy the notion of having any sort of predictability in his career. As soon as you figure out what Tom Brady does well and take it away, he goes and shows you what else he can do well. Aaron Rodgers is so spectacular because his talent is so beyond trends. Drew Brees is so spectacular because Drew Brees' mind is to the point where he can absorb a brand new game plan every week, and there's no such thing as tendencies with the Saints. They do such a good job self-scouting, so there's no such thing as people identifying, here's where we're going to exploit. But I think that the young coaches, that's going to be something that they have to learn. Matt Nagy and Sean McVay at the very leaders of those. Look at the Eagles. Think about how great the Eagles were Doug Peterson year one, and then last year they were pretty good on offense, but they were not
nothing like
slicing and dicing you. That's what the NFL is, and I think that that's why so often when you see new, fresh ideas, they're so hot early, but how do they evolve? And that's why the greatest ones, they don't have systems. They don't play gadget football. They evolve every week, and that's what sets the best coaches and the best quarterbacks apart.
Let's take a look at some of the numbers and some of the rest of the games here in this NFL opening weekend. Cleveland, a 5.5-point favorite versus the Tennessee Titans. Love it. I just wanted to say that. I'm not going to say anything else about it. Here's a couple where I thought it was surprising to me, the numbers that were put on this game. The Rams are a 2-point favorite at Carolina. That's a lot of respect to the Carolina Panthers. I realize, of course, that it's a West Coast to East Coast deal, and that's always a difficult way to go, and the travel and the time of it. It's harder because the time when you're traveling east is accelerated. Do I have this right? Yeah. I mean, so you have. I mean, it's later in the day, and so what is a 1 o'clock kickoff is actually 10 a.m. or something like that in terms of what you feel it. Whereas when you're traveling the other way, it actually feels later in the day, so you feel like you have, and you in fact do have more time to kind of prepare yourself physically. But that said, I mean, the Rams are the defending Super Bowl attendees from the NFC. They have, this great offense, this great quarter. They get some guys back, Cooper Kupp and so forth. Great defense. They add Clay Matthews to it, even though they lose Ndamukong Suh. And the fact that it's only a 2-point game, I guess, is surprising to me. I actually like this number on this game because I think Carolina's a little bit better than people think.
Definitely. Carolina's my dark horse in the NFC.
See, I'm kind of with you. Like, if I think Carolina is poised to be a good football team this year, and maybe this represents that. But I would have thought, like, if you're placing the line on Rams Panthers, that it's going to be Rams, -5 at least. So that's one to keep an eye on.
I mean, I would pick the Panthers straight up in that game.
You got the Panthers winning it.
I do.
Okay.
Just because of exactly what I just talked about. There's massive question marks to me about the Rams early. Everybody studied that offense for the whole offseason. Yep. So they're going to throw some stuff that Sean McVay hasn't seen yet.
Sean McVay at 3 and is down to 1.
Sean McVay had the upper hand for all of last year. Now people are going to catch him a little bit. Also, though, what's Todd Gurley's knee? What's the status?
Totally.
Is Cooper Kupp as explosive coming off ACL surgery? Does the offense work if everybody's not at full strength? And then one of the most important factors to me, Jared Goff was Mr. Bust, then Mr. Golden Boy, and now he got paid. We've seen many guys get paid and not be hungry anymore. Is he still hungry? That's what I want to know.
A couple other lines that I thought were big lines, not necessarily wrong, but just big. The Eagles are the biggest line of the weekend, -10 over the Washington Redskins, and then Seattle, -9.5 over Cincinnati. The Eagles one, to me, is surprisingly large because you do have yet another injury, season-ending injury to Carson Wentz. He's coming back off of that. No question that people look at Washington and they think they're in the tank. They're a bottom 5 team in the NFL and all that, and they probably are. But I just think that sometimes week 1, like you said, it's such a kind of a surprise thing. Like if this was even a week 4 game, I probably wouldn't balk at that. But I could see Washington jumping up there and maybe being a surprise. And is Dwayne Haskins starting? Is he going to start?
Oh, dude, Mr. Electricity.
Who?
Case Keenum.
Oh yeah, Case. Oh yes, it's so exciting.
It's just so.
It's too much. Stop.
Why can't the Vikings just have him? The NFL is all about economics, bro. I want Case Keenum for $6 million, not Kirk Cousins for $86. Give me Case Keenum so that we can re-sign everybody else and sign anybody else.
everything I ever needed to know about Case Keenum, and I loved Case Keenum coming out of Houston. All-time leading passer in the history of NCAA football in terms of yardage, okay? And I'm like, why can't this guy get more looks? Why can't he get... And I was watching a Vikings game in which he threw a touchdown. And this is where they were doing some of those, flash dances on the internet or whatever. You'd have a freeze frame thing or whatever. And he went to celebrate with his team and looked like a child who'd been invited to play for the varsity. And then went and stood frozen in the end zone with all the teammates. But then all the teammates unfroze in a normal amount of time that you're supposed to and just left. And he was there not knowing that the celebration had ended and looked like exactly what he is, which is an upstart kid who's got no shot.
Well, okay.
He looked like he won a contest and got to play an NFL football game. Not in terms of the way he played. His play, he's a decent quarterback. But in terms of like his ability to be a cool, awesome quarterback, no, can't be it. Isn't that? We were talking today, who's cool? Listing guys, who's cool? Yeah. Not cool.
He is cool, though. That's the whole thing. That's why he's been able to hang in the league.
No. He's been able to hang because he's pretty good. If he was cool, he'd be in Minnesota.
The point of the story is that Case Keenum on the Vikings is great. Case Keenum on the Broncos is a huge concern. And Case Keenum on the Redskins means you're the worst team in the league.
Quick break. We're going to keep going. More NFL stuff. We'll talk about the Osprey, too, next. Alpine Touch has been part of the fabric of Montana for more than 60 years. Decades ago, Russell Street started selling his Touch of Magic in whitefish. Years later, Alpine Touch's all-purpose seasoning remains a favorite. It's tailgating season, and there's no better way to spice up your grill before a Grizz game than with Alpine Touch. Go to alpinetouch.com now and use the checkout code ESPN10 for a 10% discount on your order. Alpine Touch is here to keep your mouth watering all football season. Alpine Touch, Montana's special spice.
At the Montana Club, our goal is to create a menu of mouth-watering food with variety to satisfy any craving. From the garden-fresh ingredients in our salads to our succulent, perfectly grilled Montana Club Angus steaks, we take pride in every detail that goes into preparing your food. Top off your meal with a premium cocktail, wine, or microbrew. Come as you are and satisfy your craving with our home-style breakfast, lunch, and dinner at the Montana Club on Brooks and North Reserve, Missoula.
Hey folks, Ryan Tutel here, and I'm with Josh from the Advocates Injury Attorneys. Josh, if our listeners have been injured in an accident, how can you help?
We're here to help you after a car accident by negotiating with insurance companies, recovering lost wages if you have any, and even getting you into a rental car if you need one. Call us today for a free consultation, and we'll get started helping you right away.
If you need help, get a hold of the Advocates. Call Josh at 640-4444 or online at montanaadvocates.com. You deserve an advocate.
This is Tom Skerritt for the Borgen Project. Each year, nearly 2 million children die from preventable diseases. Each day, 30,000 people die from hunger. 500 each hour are children. The Borgen Project is turning this around. We need your help. To learn more, go to borgenproject.org. That's BORGEN project.org.
The Montana Senior Medicare Patrol reminds seniors to never give out your personal information to an unsolicited caller. A Social Security impersonation scam is currently being reported across the state of Montana. Persons pretending to be Social Security Administration employees are making calls with the intent of stealing the victim's identity. If you suspect someone of impersonating the Social Security Administration, please call Montana Senior Medicare Patrol at 1-800-551-3191.
Casey here from the Mud Project, inviting you to our annual garden party Saturday, September 7th. You don't want to miss Mud's biggest event of the year with food, live music, and dancing. Close out summer celebrating and supporting the community behind Missoula's sustainability efforts. Connect with other Mud members and learn what the folks at Mud have been up to. Saturday, September 7th, 6 to 10 at the Mud Project site on Wyoming Street. For details and tickets, go to mudproject.org. And don't forget to wear your dancing shoes.
ESPN Missoula Sports Center.
Good afternoon. Ryan Tutel, Colton Nuanez, ESPN Sports Center. There will be no postseason for the Missoula Osprey. The O's came up just short in the race for the second half Pioneer League North title as they fell in the first half of the season as well. Missoula lost 5-2 to the Billings Mustangs last night, handing their hosts the second straight second-half North Division title, and that marks the fifth trip to the postseason in the last 6 years for Billings. Missoula and the Mustangs play 2 more games tonight and tomorrow to finish up the regular season, and Billings will play Idaho Falls in their first series of the playoffs next week.
Park County High football program will forfeit the remainder of the 2019 season due to a lack of enrollment in the football program. Livingston was down to just 15 players as of last Friday's 55-0 loss to Lewistown. The Rangers were scheduled to play tonight against Class A Sydney in a non-conference matchup.
And Friday Night Lights, though, is commencing tonight for the first time in the month of September. Games already underway, including the Hellgate Knights playing the Billings Skyview. Hellgate up 16-0 at half. Hellgate had 245 yards of offense in the first half. Raleigh Wooster responsible for 243 of them. That's pretty good. Also, Loyola on the road at Fairfield in a rematch of last year's state championship game. Fairfield won that game 30-13. Sunday. Cannot wait. Cannot dag-nab wait. It is Tutel Nuanez, 102.9 ESPN Radio. Broadcasting from the Kurtz Polaris studios. Kurtz Polaris is at 2904 West Broadway in Missoula, Highway 83 in Sealy. Online at kurtzpolaris.com. You can find us on the World Wide Web, 1029ESPN.com. There you can listen live to the stream anytime you want to. The stream is available thanks to Opportunity Bank. Your local bank, your opportunity.
Yes, I got to ask you about something real quick.
Okay.
Before we get back into our NFL conversation.
Okay.
This is really funny. You're going to find great joy in this.
I'm already happy.
Okay, so the world has evolved now where when albums come out, they just drop onto, I guess, formerly iTunes, which Tommy came into the office yesterday looking for you. iTunes is officially gone, but maybe it's not. Nobody knows. According to Tommy, it actually is really officially gone.
Anyway, it's released in a digital form somewhere on the internet.
Right. And so now, everybody can see the charts, as they used to be called, in real time, right? So, like, when you have a release...
It's just based on listens as opposed to, like, reviews or something like this?
Right. And downloads and stuff like that. So then you can see, well, who's the most downloaded person?
Yeah, right.
And that basically determines exactly what the Billboard Top 200 is, what it used to be.
Right,
and I'm sure it's still the same, whatever. So, Tool... You've been listening to Tool's new album.
Yep.
Tool, that's their first album in, I believe, 13 years, right? So there's a trend on Twitter of all these hardcore Taylor Swift fans that are mostly not old enough to remember Tool when they were around.
No idea.
And they're all freaking out on Twitter. Who is Tool? What is this demonic music? The songs are 13 minutes long. What is happening to the music world? And Tool is obviously, because of their cult following and just because of just how much they're respected and revered in the music world, they've overtaken Taylor Swift and other pop artists. And the Twitter trends, if you want to have yourself a good belly laugh, go read the Tool Taylor Swift people.
Man, why does that not just surprise me in the least bit? It's interesting too, because it is the children, and I mean that are setting the music, directives, the marching orders at large, because they're the ones with all of the time to be in there hanging out on the internet, downloading the things.
Keep streaming, girls. This band Tool is dropping a new album after 13 years, LOL. We still have a chance. Stream on. Apparently, they were really big back in the 90s. Ha. A comeback 13 years later. Oh, my God. The length of each song makes me shook.
The length of each song makes me shook. That right there is, that to me, you see the signs of the apocalypse 9 times a day, Coulter. That's one of them for me right there. That sentence. All right. Can we talk some more NFL football, Coulter? Because that makes me feel like maybe the apocalypse isn't imminent, Maybe that's why I like football. Makes me believe that the history of the world will last longer than other people think. Because the Chargers have to play Indianapolis on Sunday. It has to happen. I don't care. If we ranked our games that are just the absolute don't care about them, this might win my week. The Colts-Chargers game.
Really?
Do not care.
Why?
Both teams are just so blah to me.
Don't you love Philip the dad, though? He's like your NFL peer.
I do. Look, man.
He drives a minivan. He's got 90 kids.
No.
He drives an NFL quarterback's version of your minivan.
Correct. And by the way, he doesn't drive it.
Right.
He has a driver so that he can do film on the commute from San Diego to Los Angeles, which I understand is quite the commute, particularly depending on the time of day. Anyway, no, I don't care about either of these teams at all. And
really?
And I don't care about this game at all. And the only reason I included it here with the Chargers as 6.5-point favorites is because what I want to know is what would this number be if Andrew Luck were playing quarterback? Like, how much does he matter to this team? The Chargers would still be favored, wouldn't they, at home?
No. Where is the game? It's in L.A.?
It's in L.A.
Yeah, I think they'd still be favored.
But it'd be probably
2.5.
2.5, you think?
Yeah.
So 4 points.
Yeah.
Andrew Luck's good for 4 points.
NFL lines are so funny, man.
They are fickle, aren't they?
Well, a 10-point line in the NFL is just gigantic.
Huge.
Whereas in the college football, like we have our new Big Sky Gambler betting lines on SkylineSportsMT.com. Go check them out. Sam Lewis doing a good job breaking down the games, giving you his best picks. But like the spread in the Idaho State Western Colorado game last night was 37.5.
Yep.
ISU goes out and gets a 38-14 win and loses everybody money because they don't even come close to cover it. This is so funny because now these NFL games you have to adjust the way that you think about this stuff.
Right, because 4 points in an NFL spread is 14 points in a college spread. But it makes sense, right? Because you were talking about relatively equitable spread of the elite of the elite of the elite. And so it shortens the margins for error so much thinner in the NFL.
Colts are +3, according to our resident Chargers expert, Sean Rainey.
The Colts are +3.
He said the Colts were +3 before.
It opened at +3.
Okay.
Before Luck went down. Yeah. So it's moved 3.5 points then, because they're now +6.5. Okay. Rainey, I'm waiting for your counter proposal, by the way, on the fantasy trade. All right, Colts. Let's move on to some other games. Dallas -7 versus the New York Giants. I like Dallas to win this game. They are the better football team, but I think that the Giants are actually poised to have a better season than they did last year. And I think the Cowboys are poised to have a worse season than they did last year.
So if you think the Redskins and the Giants are going to be better or good, who's going to be bad?
Not Washington.
Well, you said that this team might be able to put something together. You said that.
In the first week, in game 1 against the Eagles to cover a 10-point spread. No, I think Washington's terrible. I think they're a bottom 5 team in the NFL.
I think that there's only 3 teams in the NFC that have no chance to make the playoffs: the Redskins, the Giants, and the Bucs.
I would not include the Bucs in that list. Absolutely not.
Okay.
I'm a believer in the what do they call that?
Yeah,
cap?
What's their ceiling? 3rd in the South. What's the Bucs' ceiling in the division they're in? How do they not finish last in that division?
By winning.
How? Are they better than the Falcons?
I hate the Falcons.
I know, but that's your bias coming into your projection. Are they objectively better than the Falcons? No, they're not. You can hate Matt Ryan all you want. He's better than anything the Bucs got.
Bruce Arians is the best player on either team.
I get it, but I mean, the Falcons are actually not. The Falcons are pretty good.
Falcons are okay. The Carolina Panthers we both like, but there's certainly room for them to be not that good. The only sure thing to me in there is the New Orleans Saints. It's the only thing.
Yeah, but all those teams are real playoff contenders.
Look, man, do I think if you're going to ask me if I think the Bucs are going to make the playoffs, the answer is no. But you said the only thing that you know is that the Bucs are certainly not going to. I wouldn't put their percentage at 0.
Really?
I would put it at 10%.
Oh man. Okay. Who has a better chance to make the playoffs? The Bucs or the Lions?
The Bucs.
Okay. The Lions or the Cardinals?
The Cardinals.
The Lions or the Giants?
The Giants. The Lions might be the worst team. They might be 32.
See, I think that the Lions are better than the Bucs, the Cardinals, the Giants, or the Redskins. They are.
They might be better than the Redskins.
They're better than the Redskins.
They're not good. They are in fact awful.
I'm gonna laugh so hard when Green Bay loses in Detroit this year.
Not me. I'll cry. Here's one where I like the upset a little bit, and I thought this number would be bigger, but Kansas City is a 3.5-point favorite against Jacksonville. I got to see where this game's being played. I'll try and check on that real quick. But Kansas City comes in with all this fanfare, and it's well-deserved. And we know what Patrick Mahomes is, and I'm 100% all in on Patrick Mahomes. This is not like, oh, he's coming back to earth or anything like that from me. I love Patrick Mahomes. I think Andy Reid's great. I think their offense is great. I think they're a very good football team. I think Jacksonville is much better this year than what they were last year. And I think that in a week 1 game that they are feeling the disrespect of, Kansas City's just going to come in here and do business and say thank you very much and leave, and that's going to be that and no chance at all. I think Jacksonville's actually a good football team, and I think in the first week of the season that they could surprise the Kansas City Chiefs and win this football game outright.
Yesterday at practice, Cam Robinson, starting left tackle for the Jacksonville Jaguars, went down with a non-contact knee injury. He is likely out.
Kansas City will win by 45.
the game's in Jacksonville, by the way.
The other game. Oh, go ahead.
I agree that
it is in Jacksonville. So yeah, I mean, I like Jacksonville.
Nick Foles plays with the confidence that is superior to his actual abilities. His abilities are good. His confidence is phenomenal. I think that rubs off on people, especially if you cater to him running the ball. To me, the Jaguars, I think one thing that we really underrate, in especially in the NFL, is we talk about leadership and who's the leaders and who's the captains and all that in college so often. We don't talk about it in the NFL as much because I think we just think these guys are so expendable, especially on defense. And it's just not the case. I thought that Jacksonville took a dip last year, one, because of Blake Bortles' putrid play, but also because of Paul Posnowski's abrupt retirement. He was the heart and soul of their defense. They didn't have a leader after that. But they had a guy that was kind of stemming the tide in Telvin Smith. Well, guess what? He's out too. He decided to take the year off for football. He might be done, period. He's one of the most productive inside linebackers in the NFL. Where do you get the leadership from? They have Calais Campbell, for sure, one of the best leaders in the league. But you got to have the dude who's going to tell Jalen Ramsey to shut his mouth when you need Jalen Ramsey to shut his mouth. Jalen Ramsey's, the way he yaps can be the best thing ever for you when you're setting the NFL record for sacks in a season and you're just absolutely just running a train on people with your defense.
Mm-hmm.
He's the worst thing you can have in your locker room when he's sitting there talking smack and you're losing. So I think they got to have somebody step up to be the guy to keep him in check, whether it's Calais Campbell or otherwise. But I think the Jags
are
better than people expected.
Marcel Darius and Myles Jack.
Is Myles Jack actually good, though?
Oh, yes. Myles Jack is actually good.
He's actually talented. Can he stay healthy? Has he stayed healthy for a full season of football?
That is not what your question was. There is a difference between not being good and getting hurt. He had a horrific knee injury in college, which is why he fell to where he fell. He bounced back from that and was outstanding, then was injured again, which happens. Myles Jack is actually elite. Myles Jack is a stallion amongst stallions.
Well, they got to have him be elite because
Myles Jack has played in all 16 games in his 3
because
NFL
why?
seasons.
He's getting paid like an elite player.
Well, he is.
So they need him to be an elite player.
Okay. He's going to be. He is.
According to our producer, 16-game starter.
There you go.
3 years in a row. So he is not injury prone. He has played.
I thought he had been hurt actually in the NFL.
I don't know. I'm still up in the air on the Jags, and I think that the Chiefs are going to be really good again. But I think that Patrick Mahomes is going to struggle early. Not catastrophically,
totally.
But just he's not going to throw 6 touchdowns.
It's not 5 touchdowns a game, yes. And here's the thing: the Kansas City is better than Jacksonville. Okay, period. They're a better football team. They're going to have a better record than the Jacksonville Jaguars when Week 17 rolls around. But in Week 1 in Jacksonville, I'm picking the Jags to win that football game. That's all I'm saying.
Well, and there's also just such a key factor to how do you manage all the distractions that you went through in the offseason?
Right.
If your offseason is filled with me against the world. We got to get back to where we once were, like the Jags. I think that you have a chance to be so good right out the gates because you've just had all this pressure on you, all this buildup. And now with the Chiefs, it's the opposite. You have to fulfill the potential that you had last year while also mitigating all the distractions that you went through the entire offseason.
It's Tutel and Nuanez, 102.9 ESPN Radio. Got a couple more games that I wanted to talk about. We'll see if we get to them, but we are going to take a break, come back, and finish off with the Seattle Seahawks. The Seahawks playing the Cincinnati Bengals on Sunday. That game kicks off at 2. The pregame begins at noon right here on ESPN Radio, your official Seattle Seahawks affiliate all season long. Coulter, you need some place to stay, lay your head, wake up, have a great breakfast. Go to the Wingate by Wyndham Hotel.
Some of the best business travel rates around, especially for qualified customers. A business traveler who's tired of rate increases any time of year, especially late in the summer, early in the fall. Wingate by Wyndham can help you all summer long and all year long. Wingate by Wyndham offers great year-round rates for corporate travelers with bonuses of extra Wyndham Rewards points. If you're coming to or fro, Bozeman or Missoula, for the Grizz or Bobcat football games, check out the Wingate by Wyndham out there by the airport. Give Alicia or Kim a call. They'll take care of you. 541-8000 today to learn more. Wingate by Wyndham in Missoula, making you feel at home even when you're not.
Mark your calendar for the 4th annual Selway Armory tent sale. The lowest prices of the year on guns, ammunition, and accessories, and massive amounts of ammo to stock up for the entire year. September 13th and 14th in the Lolo Shopping Center parking lot on Highway 93. Tons of ammo, guns, and other items at below-cost blowout prices. September 13th and 14th, 10 a.m. to 7 p.m. on Friday and 8 a.m. to 6 p.m. Saturday. The 4th annual Selway Armory tent sale at the Lolo Shopping Center, Highway 93.
This is Mike Nugent with Berkshire Hathaway Home Services. Berkshire Hathaway provides Western Montana with full-time real estate professionals for you whenever you need us. Our reputation as the state's most knowledgeable and available real estate group has helped build unmatched trust in the Garden City and statewide. If you have been thinking of making a real estate move in the short or long term, give me a call. No pressure, no expectations. Just professional opinions and service at whatever pace you are comfortable with. Give me, Mike Nugent, a call today. 531-1802. And remember, every question is good to ask.
It's a crisp fall morning. Time for your daily pumpkin soy latte. As you wait for your coffee, you get a buzz. No, it's not your boss wanting extra whipped cream, but your ADT video doorbell. It's a package. Your new latte machine. No more $5 PSLs. Barista service. Brought to you by ADT. Designing and installing a smart home just for you. Backed by best-in-class 24/7 protection. Learn more at ADT.com. ADT. Real protection. License information available at ADT.com.
During International Suicide Prevention Week, September 8th through 15th, River Pines Horse Sanctuary invites the public to Horses for Hope, emotional strength training as a suicide prevention strategy, a well-being journey through the way of the horse. This workshop is an opportunity to learn important suicide prevention concepts through horse grooming, an activity that is known to boost oxytocin levels in the brain, lowering blood pressure, and fostering social connection responses. A limited number of appointments are available. Call 406-304-6433 to schedule yours today.
Are you interested in putting solar panels on your roof? Do you want the latest on Montana's renewable energy policies? The Montana Renewable Energy Association is a leading voice for renewable energy education and advocacy in Montana. From community-based clean energy events to advocating at the Montana legislature, they work to ensure Montana's future is powered by the sun, wind, and earth. Find out more about MREA and join as a member by visiting montanarenewables.org or calling 406-214-9405.
School buses are taking to the roads, and they mean something very important. That is, bus drivers, educators, and parents doing their part to get children to and from school safely. Montana motorists share the responsibility to Montana's kids. Be aware this school year, you are sharing the road with our future. Flashing yellow lights alert drivers that the bus is preparing to stop. Flashing red lights means stop. Children are getting on or off the bus. Watch the lights and obey the signals to help keep our community safe for kids. This school safety reminder was brought to you by the Montana School Bus Contractors Association and this station.
Tutel and Nuanez. Listen to the podcast on the TuneIn Radio app or on iTunes. 1029ESPN.com.
We are so very close to the weekend, and Coulter and I are in a dag-nab great mood. Great to have all of you along. Hope you're having a wonderful day, as good as our day. We are broadcasting live from the Kurtz Polaris studios. Kurtz Polaris at 2904 West Broadway in Missoula, Highway 83 in Sealy. online at kurtzpolaris.com. If you missed anything in the show, check it out on the podcast. The podcast available thanks to the Wingate by Wyndham Hotel. And Coulter, just quickly, I wanted to say before we get into the Seahawks game, the New England-Pittsburgh game is the first Sunday night game of the year. Pittsburgh is a 5.5-point underdog in this game. No. The Patriots, who are going to win the AFC East by 6 games this year, are going to lose straight up this game and be once again 2-2 in the month of September like they are every single year. How do you not figure this out on the books to make the Pittsburgh Steelers with James Conner and Juju Smith-Schuster and Ben Roethlisberger and Mike Tomlin going up against the got-to-creak-myself-out-of-bed 100-year-old Tom Brady and work into my system 5.5 points? That's insane.
That was your Burn Street Bistro Burn of the Week.
There we go. Hold on. We got to turn that up again now. You know what I mean? There we go. There we go.
That was your Burn Street Bistro Burn of the Week.
Get him on it 2 times. Get him on it 2 times. You know what I'm saying? That's what we got to do. Okay. Coulter, the huge number that the Seattle Seahawks, they're the close, other than the Eagles game, this is the biggest number on the board. 9.5-point favorite over the Cincinnati Bengals. You know that I think Joe Mixon's maybe the best player in the history of football.
Oh, my gosh.
Come on now. See, you overblow this about me so much because I like Joe Mixon. You are wrong about him.
I'm not.
I'm the one who's right about him. No, you're not.
I'm not. When you got to have at least 3, maybe 4 years of sustained success for me to actually believe you're elite. Joe Mixon and David Johnson.
He's only been in the league for 2 years. How is he supposed to have it?
Joe Mixon and David Johnson still have a lot to prove to me.
So Saquon Barkley's not elite.
Saquon Barkley's not human.
So just 1 year.
Saquon Barkley's a different.
No,
he is, because Saquon Barkley and Zeke Elliott are transcendent talents. Those guys were straight up top 5 running backs the day they stepped in the league. Those other 2 guys have to prove it. They got to prove it. Christian McCaffrey's similar age to those 2 guys. He's proved it more than they have. He has.
Christian McCaffrey is a better running back than Joe Mixon.
I agree.
Okay, but I'm not arguing that point.
I just think that I think that Joe Mixon and David Johnson are way more like Melvin Gordon than they are like the actual elite guys.
No. David Johnson, first of all, is better than Joe Mixon. But Joe Mixon...
Is he, though?
Yes.
Are either of them actually good?
You're just gonna make my head hurt.
They're good. They're just not elite.
Let me ask you this.
In 10 years, will you even know who David Johnson was?
Where did David Johnson rank in rushing last year, individual rushing?
I have no idea.
Had a bad year, right?
Yeah.
9th.
Great. Stats are for losers. And they lost a lot.
They lost a ton. Not because of him.
Okay. I remain on the outside.
The Seahawks are 9.5-point favorites. They're going to cover that number on Sunday?
Yes. Bengals are terrible.
DK Metcalf claims to be 100% is waxing himself Wolverine because of his quick recovery from a scope in his knee. 100% expects to play. Chris Carson ran for 1,150 yards in only 14 games last year. Nobody cares about him. The number 1 rushing team in the NFL from a year ago. Nobody cares about them. Overrated defense that just ain't. They're a top 10 defense again a year ago. Nobody thought twice about it because they lost the Legion of Boom. Seahawks are legit good, and they are going to make a run. I believe this now. Before the season starts for them, the NFC West. I really think they can put the Rams in their sights.
We shall see.
Sunday, we'll have the game for you at noon. Tomorrow, boys and girls, come down to the tailgate party. Across from the Eastgate Shopping Center, adjacent to the Walking Bridge. We'll have pizza, drinks, fun, apparel, and Tootsell and Nuanez. ESPN College Game Day on the air at 5 tomorrow. Have a great, great football weekend. Enjoy the games.
Hey folks, Ryan Tutel here, and I'm with Josh of the Advocates Injury Attorneys. Josh, what are people left dealing with after an accident?
Well, quite a few things, actually. We see people that are in pain, they still need to get to work, they need to raise their kids, and now they have to take time to go see doctors and other healthcare providers. They're frustrated with working with the insurance companies and getting the runaround. We'll take on the burden of dealing with the insurance companies so you can get the best settlement possible and get back to your life.
Find your advocate online at montanaadvocates.com. There are a lot of lawyers. You deserve an advocate.
Hi there, it's Les Schwab Tires. You know, we've been helping keep folks safe on the road around here since 1952. That's why you can save up to $152 on a set of 4 select light truck and SUV tires during our fall tire sale. So swing by or book an appointment at leschwab.com. Les Schwab Tires, doing the right thing since 1952. Limited time offer while supplies last. Discount depends on tire size and type. Cannot be combined with other offers. Details at leschwab.com.
On Russell, across from